Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Just Rhonda and my panel that I have with me today, Inexplicable Susan. Katie did it. I don't recall. I haven't heard from Jack. He may or may pop in at some point. But anyway, um, this is who we are today. And you know what? What's better than a bunch of women chatting about things? So, welcome to my panel and to everybody in the chat. I appreciate you being here. Today we're going to have a off the cuff discussion, I guess is the best way to describe it, regarding the 8 or 9 part series of Tabitha Barnes that we finished up with just before we took a vacation this month. So, excuse me, just 1 minute. I apologize. So we're going to talk about that. I was telling the ladies before we came on that it was very exhausting for me putting that all together, although it may not feel like it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of mental exhaustion. So I just want to talk about it, answer any questions that might come up in the chat, that are confusing because it was such a confusing case. So we're going to discuss that a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Richard Glossip, who is on death row in Oklahoma, and his case has just been the wildest roller coaster ride. I can't imagine what that poor man and his family and his wife go through every day, just waiting on Supreme Court information. So Kay had shared with me, I think it was yesterday, an article from the Intercept magazine, and we're going to kind of read through that together and see what that has to say. And then at the end of that, when we finish going through that, I kind of want to start talking a little bit about the Corey Richins case. And I have a community post from, I don't know, several weeks ago, I think, asking, kind of a poll if anybody would be interested in me live streaming that case when it does come up. So the poll was favorable. Those who answered it, I haven't looked recently to see, but it was favorable 100% for those who are familiar that they would like to see me stream that trial. None of that will take the place of anything that we're doing with Daniel's case on inside the wrongful conviction of Daniel Holtzclaw, because next Thursday, we will start with the next accuser in line at from Brian Bates' podcast. So I think those were the things I wanted to cover to get started. And so I think that we'll go ahead and just get started kind of talking about Tabitha Barnes. I want to welcome those that I can see in chat right now. W. Daisy Girl Williams, thank you so much for being here. Sheila Hawkins, it's great to see you as well. And I don't recall is in the chat. Hi, I don't recall. It's great to see you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Corruption in Oklahoma.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't decide what to make the title because it can't be part of the Inside the Wrongful Conviction podcast. I want to keep that strictly to accusers in Daniel's case. So I thought, it's just Corruption in Oklahoma because that's what it is. And the what's it called thumbnail shows Richard Glossip and Daniel Holtzclaw. But trust me when I tell you, and Cherie and Kay and Susan can tell you as well, there is far more corruption than just these two cases. You can go back and listen to the first, I think, 10 episodes that we did in a series that we were calling a book cast regarding a book that Mark Furman had written. That it was called, Cherie, help me. Death and Justice, the Oklahoma Killing Machine, or something to that effect, by Mark Furman. and say what we want about Mark Furman and the kind of person that he is or was during the OJ trial, but he's written several really good, uh, books based on true crime stories, um, over the years. So anyway, you can go back and listen to those, or you can, do some investigating about different wrongful convictions or death row convictions, wrongful convictions of individuals who've been executed in Oklahoma, because that's a thing. And just stuff like that. So that's why I called it Corruption in Oklahoma. Maybe someday we'll have to, I know we have a couple of videos from way back in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken. Again, Cherie's much better with that than I am. But, we have different videos talking about, different corrupt people in that system in Oklahoma. Joyce Gilchrist was the crime lab analyst who falsified nearly every single lab thing that she did, results, things that she did. I shouldn't say nearly every single, but so much that it ended up causing some major reviews by, high officials in the country, not just in Oklahoma City. Ultimately, she was terminated, and then she passed away from a rather young age at some point before she could file the appeal, I believe, on her wrongful termination or whatever it was she was trying to do. So there's some videos from way back when that you can watch on Joyce Gilchrist, Lane Taylor, Rocky Gregory, Kim Davis, Galen Gigger. We have several. So if you're interested in learning about some of the corruption in Oklahoma City, definitely check out those videos. And if I can think about it, I'll try to put them in the description after we get done with the show today. So let's see. Oh, Susan, I'm sorry, I was reading the private chat. Oh, my sound is going in and out. I'm sorry. Am I having trouble with my sound?
Yeah, it's not really bad, but it's there.
It might be because you know me, unless I'm sitting on my hands, I'm moving around a lot. So that could be part of the and I'm struggling to get kind of comfortable and stuff like that. So anyway, I will try to be very conscious of where my microphone is and where I'm speaking. So anyway, I want to say hello to Susan. I haven't been involved in obviously my own channel nor in the Foul Play podcast, so I haven't spoken to my friends for quite some time. So Susan, do you want to give us an update on how you're doing?
Yeah, hi Rhonda. I'm doing great, thanks. Just been watching several trials, and it takes a lot of time, but they've been interesting for sure. Other than that, I'm living through a kind of a remodel here at home for the last month or so, remodeling the kitchen, putting in hardwood floors. So I've been kind of relegated to my small little room back here.
Oh no.
So I'm anxious for that to get done, but otherwise I'm doing good.
Oh, good. That's awesome. That's great to hear. When the end result of that remodeling is beautiful and fantastic, sometimes living through it can be not so much that.
I am really loving it so far. He's doing a really good job, and it's opened everything up, and yeah, it's nice and getting rid of lots of junk. So that's a good thing.
Okay, well then have him come here to my house next. And I'll just assign him to just my area where I live downstairs. Never go anywhere else, just mine. But that could be just as bad as the whole thing. So anyway, well, good. That sounds awesome, Susan. I know that you're going to enjoy it. And Kay, Kay may have had to step away to go and help her mom with something. So, but I will definitely hear from her when she returns. In the meantime, I'm going to really quickly, I'm just going to remove everybody from the studio except for myself. Well, I can't do that. I'll just remove Kay for a minute from the chat. And Cherie real quick. Oh, it still doesn't really work. And I don't know how to do all of the fun stuff that you can do in StreamYard with layouts and stuff. So at any rate, I put a map of Utah on the backdrop. For those of you who don't already know or who just don't give a flying fuck, Utah was just awarded early yesterday morning, the 2034 Winter Olympics. So I know that's 10 years off or almost 10 years off. Pretty big deal though for any state in the United States, to be awarded Olympics. So this is the second time since I've been living in Utah that we'll have had the Winter Olympics here. So I'm pretty excited about it. So I'm probably going to be annoying about it for a minute. just bear with me, or tune me out or mute me or whatever you have to do. But anyway, so I wanted to make that announcement really quick. Thank you, Cherie. So, Cherie says she gives a F star, or she does anyway. Congrats, Utah. Thank you. It is a really big deal for us. So, and it looks like we have Joffrey the third has popped in. It's been a minute since we've seen you as well, so welcome back. Okay. Because I'm not doing any, pre-planned videos or pre-planned readings or anything, a little bit of a longer introduction that's just going to now kind of go over into talking a little bit about the Tabitha Barnes series that we finished up a few weeks ago. So if you have any questions in the chat that you're confused about, or you still aren't sure of, or whatever the case is, if you just want to vent about how horrible you think it was, definitely put. Yes, I know it. I know it is, TJ, but I'm not gonna. Hey, TJ, it's been a long time since I've seen you too. I know it's 10 years away. I just mean for a minute, as in, the next few days or so, I'll probably be annoying, not for the next 10 years. So you guys are safe from that. But so if you have any questions in the chat that you want to ask, or please put your questions or comments in the chat about the Tabitha Barnes series. Again, there's a playlist for Tabitha Barnes series. I kept it updated as we did each week, each episode. So it's updated in chronological order, I think it is. So if you haven't heard anything about the Tabitha Barnes accusations, find that playlist and go check them out. They're long, but they had to be because there was so much twisted information. So anyway, so I'll just ask the ladies on the panel if they have anything that they would like to bring up about anything at all about Tabitha Barnes.
I'd just like to say that it's absolutely unbelievable to me that they found him guilty on any of her charges. After the debacle with her testimony, being high in court, just everything. It just blows my mind that how many years is he doing for her? It's ridiculous.
I don't remember, because he had 3 or 4 convictions from her. I think 3 actually. I know
her,
it was
her changing stories. I mean,
yeah.
it's just, it just makes no sense. It just tells me that the jurors didn't really, I don't know, really consider everything in her case. It's inexplicable.
That's why we call you Inexplicable Susan, because it really is. It's just hard to come up with a different word, for sure. So, and I want to thank you for reading all of that as well. All those transcripts and stuff, because that's not easy either. And sometimes we kind of have fun with it at the accuser's expense, particularly the state's and the investigators' expenses, because they're just so dumb. I mean, they're just literally dumb,
Yep.
and they're corrupt, and they're liars. So,
Yeah.
it's
I'm always
it's
happy to
difficult.
read. No problem at all.
I know, and you have a great voice for the reading, and you're good with kind of changing tones and inflections and dialects. So we love it. We all love it.
I don't really do that on purpose. Sometimes it just comes out the way it comes out. So,
I kind of find myself that way. But with some of the accusers who I have seen, who we've seen in videos, for whatever reasons, in their recorded interviews and stuff,
yeah,
you kind of get a
that
sense for
influences.
how.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I can
For
do
sure.
that. I can pull off the attitude. I just can't pull off the dialect.
Right.
My,
It's tough.
it's hard. It's really hard. So the
I
attitude
always
I
just
got.
sound like with a southern accent.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's awesome though. I think hopefully people, those who are in the live chat can answer this, but I think that folks in general, if we're talking about a true crime, a trial, and we can get access to transcripts from that trial or anything, I think people like to hear those things. I hope, because we're doing it. We're in the middle of it. It's going to keep happening. So
Well,
anyway,
if you're interested in a wrongful conviction, especially, it's so important to hear what happened at trial and the actual words used, etc. So
Yeah,
I love
hear
hearing
what the jury.
testimony.
Sorry, hear what the
Yeah,
jury
exactly.
heard. What did they base it on?
Exactly, Sherry. Yep.
yeah, you get because most people. I think most people who listen to this podcast anyway, maybe not all of them, but I think a good portion of the public who are familiar with Daniel's case, the only thing they know about the entire case and trial is what they heard from the TV, from the mainstream media, and we know how that works, and we know what they do, and we know how complicit they are in you know convicting somebody before they've even had a trial, or all the things. I don't even need to go into it because there's so much, but at any rate, that's what most people know about Daniel's case. And yeah, I don't when Kay gets back, I'd like to ask her, but it's funny because either in Brian Bates Reddit, he has a subreddit for Daniel Holtzclaw. In there, I see people, talk about, well, this is how, what do you mean? How do I know? Or the evidence or this or that? It was in the trial. And I just say, I very, how do I want to say it? Not sarcastically, but not overtly snarky either. I'll just reply back to them. Oh, did you go to the trial? No, I didn't go to the trial, but I saw it on TV. No, you didn't, because it wasn't freaking televised, you liar. you know? And so I'm curious if that is a common thing in Oklahoma, that the judges don't allow their cases, especially their high profile cases, to be televised. I can't think of any, but I haven't paid attention to all of them either. So that's a question I'd like to ask Kay when she's able to come back. Or if one of you even know, maybe one of you know, because I'm curious about it.
I don't
So
know.
I don't either. I think I tried to research that one day and then I got sidetracked, which is, as all of you guys know, is so easy for me to do. It just happens naturally. So I didn't end up, by the time I was like, wait a minute, what was I looking for? I had forgotten. So I haven't looked it up to try to find out. Oh, yeah. TJ's in the chat and I forgot. He lives in Oklahoma. He said cameras are not allowed in court. And is that in all courts, TJ? Because that just to me is more proof of how corrupt, generally speaking, the criminal justice system is, in particularly Oklahoma City. Just my opinion.
Do you know if they ever got body cams, Rhonda?
They do have body cams and dash cams now, I believe.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have body cams now.
I think it was
good sketch drawings.
Kay said it
They
was
didn't
like
have
within
them
a year or two of Daniel.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. They still don't have them in Massachusetts, in Canton, where they just had that Karen Reed trial. In this day and age, hard to believe. Yeah.
I know.
And they're very corrupt as well.
Oh my gosh. Massachusetts, you got, or at least in that area, Canton and whatever.
Boston area. Yeah.
Boston. God. It makes me feel a little bit better about Oklahoma. I'll tell you that. Are you talking about the body cams being new, TJ? Or dash cams, or both, probably. Yeah, we know that they came after Daniel's case. I can't remember exactly when they started implementing them, though. Yeah, Boston. I don't know how many of you in the chat paid any attention or watched anything in the Karen Reed trial, but oh my gosh. Okay, thank you, TJ. TJ says both are new. It was, we could talk about that too. I mean, this is just basically a general chit chat podcast today. So, but that Karen Reed trial, Susan, I don't want to get started because I'll spend an hour talking about it, and I don't want to do that. Susan, I'm going to let you give your opinion about it.
Oh, well. It's just mind-boggling after listening to the entire trial, the prosecution, the defense basically proved that she was not hit by a car. So how they could be what's it called when they can't agree? Damn. When the jury can't come to an agreement. Hung. Yeah.
Deadlocked.
On even
hung or deadlocked, yeah.
On even, which we now know, looks pretty apparent that it was only on one of the lesser charges on count 2, which all has to do with her hitting him with a car. And the experts that were hired, that the feds, that work for the
affectionately
FBI,
known as crash daddies.
the crash daddies, as both super intelligent, top of their class in accident reconstruction, basically proved that he was not hit by a car. So, but evidently there were some jurors that just did not take their evidence as credible, evidently. And then the whole debacle with the judge and the way that she dismissed the jury at the very end. Apparently, we've had jurors come forward that say, we acquitted her on what was it, second degree?
Yeah.
What was the charges?
Was it? It wasn't the. Was it manslaughter? It wasn't the manslaughter, right?
Yeah, I think
Had to,
second degree murder or second
Yeah,
degree
there was
manslaughter.
intent
murder.
involved, so, or they, in one of the charges, so it must have been more
They
than.
say they agreed on charge 1 and charge 3 that they acquitted her on, but never got a chance to tell
Right.
the judge. The judge made things so confusing for the jury instructions on how they should conduct themselves and how they should fill out the forms, etc., that they feel like they were cheated out of being able to let them know that they acquitted her on those 2 charges and were just hung on the second charge, lesser offense or offenses. So it's just a mess. That judge was very biased, in my opinion. She's still going to rule on these jurors coming forward, and telling their story, which will be on August 11th, maybe. I don't know. It's coming up in August for her to rule on that. Seriously doubt she will do anything about it. But that goes to the whole double jeopardy. Not for Karen,
right.
if she was actually acquitted on those charges.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Those are-
hard to believe that the state will do it again because of what came out at trial. The actions of law enforcement, the unprofessionalism of their experts. I'm putting those in quotes. Trooper Paul, as their crash reconstructionist, was a total joke. Just I can't see them putting him back on the stand. I don't know. It's such a crazy case. At least she's not in jail, is what I have to say right now.
I would, if I were them, I wouldn't want to show my face, I would just want it to just go away and be quiet and hope people forget for a while. It was very embarrassing for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the lead detective on the case has been, well, he's not been, I don't think he has been officially fired yet, but he's not working. He's not getting paid right now.
Right, he's on unpaid administrative leave. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he will be fired for what he did. Just the crazy butt dials. There's so much that
butt dials.
What just
the butt dials and the butt answering. And then the butt redialing, calling back the person.
Right.
It just
Oh my
was
God.
freaking crazy. Yeah.
It's insane.
It's insane. Michael Proctor, that lead investigator, I'm telling you, man, that man is dirty. And I don't mean to, I just want to say, and then I'm going to turn that back over to you, Susan, but he also, and I'm sure most of you know this by now, he also was an investigator. I couldn't find if he was the lead investigator, but he's also an investigator who was involved in the Brian Walsh case in Boston.
He was an investigator on that case. Yeah. No longer. Yeah.
It's so scary to think because, I think a lot of us believe Brian Walsh most likely murdered and dismembered his wife. The evidence we've been told through the media, is very, very strong. But then it's scary when that trial comes around. What is going to be said about Michael Proctor's involvement in that case initially, and can anything in that the early time of that investigation be trusted if it has Michael Proctor's name on it?
Rhonda, I think his lawyers have already filed something in regards to that, but I haven't seen it. I don't know if that's true, but I believe I heard that in regards to Proctor.
Oops, sorry, I muted myself. Okay. Yeah, it seems like I did too. A little while back, I saw something. Now that you say that, but I not something I remember.
What do you mean? What are you guys talking about? Filed what?
Filed something about Proctor in the Walsh case. His attorneys.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you meant in the Reed case. I was really confused.
No, in the Brian Walsh case.
Gotcha.
But I haven't seen it. I haven't heard what it was. I just think I saw something about that in passing, so I could be wrong. It's just what's coming to mind.
I think they would be negligent if they didn't file something after hearing what he did in Karen's case.
Right, right.
And can you blame them? Can you blame, regardless of what my opinion is on Brian Walsh? I cannot blame him for filing that. Like Cherie said, it's his duty, his attorney's duty to do that, which scares me. This is the whole part about that scares me with Michael Proctor.
Right.
He's wrecked a lot of stuff. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, Karen Reed was a debacle. And I remember saying, just 3 or 4 weeks into the trial, and the more we were seeing and hearing during the trial, how inept the Commonwealth seemed to be, or rather, I should say, what's his name? Lally. I just never seen a worse prosecutor. I thought Galen Gigger was bad, but I'm telling you guys, like I said, there are worse things than Oklahoma. So if that helps any of you who live in Oklahoma, have fond memories in Oklahoma, I think Boston, Mass is worse.
So Kay is back, and she's very familiar with the Karen Reed trial. What do you have to say, Kay?
Yeah, go ahead, Kay. We're just doing potpourri.
Potpourri. Is that when it gets all over you? Oh, wait, sorry. That was bad.
And it stinks.
That stinks. Oh, man. That pisses me off so much. It's really sickening to watch a judge be so blatantly on the state side. And you saw that all throughout that case. I mean, the judge did kind of change her like demeanor when Proctor got on the stand. But I don't know if that was just for the cameras or not. And and the whole thing with the jurors, and I was kind of listening to you guys out of one ear while I was running down to Mom's real quick, but the jury forms, I mean, do you think that's what the issue was? That they just didn't understand that if they found her not guilty on 2 of those counts, that, I don't know, did they just not understand that they still needed to fill out the jury forms? And that's a problem.
I think it also had a lot to do with the judge's juror instructions along with that form. They were also very confusing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was confused too, for sure. Have you guys ever seen a situation like that where after the jury's out, they edit the form?
I haven't.
No, I have not seen anything so ridiculous in my life.
But you know, the bottom line with the Karen Reed case is there was no broken tail light on the lawn until after Proctor came back there. That's
until after they had moved her car into the sally port.
Right, until after they had possession of her car, after they moved it into the sally port, where there's 40-something minutes missing from video at the time, you know, at the relevant time.
There's
where
people
they're back there
hovering
messing with
around.
the tail light. Yeah, it's just
People hovering there around the cracked tail light, but you can't see it in that position.
so. I mean, that's just an open and shut thing right there, because there's no way she could have hit him with that car if the taillight pieces didn't appear until later. I mean, if someone can't see how much of a setup that is, then you're not really analyzing the evidence very well.
Along with the crash daddy's expert testimony.
Right. Well, to hell with science in this country for the most part, it seems like.
Right?
I mean,
He
people
did
just
a pirouette and flew 30 feet.
Right.
Yeah, the pirouette,
right.
that was amazing.
That's the science
God.
for you.
Oh, wait a minute. After he bounced off the curb or the
Yes.
ground.
Yeah.
The hard
Yeah, I
frozen
mean,
ground, yeah.
Come on. Where's the critical thinking? I don't get it.
It's
So annoying.
Not there. Not in Canton, Mass.
Well, it's not
But
in
is it even about critical thinking, or is it just, I don't know.
yeah.
It's
I mean, it is, because
stupidity.
it's that logical. He got sideswiped by the car. He bounces off of the curb and then flies 30 feet. I mean, the physics don't work out for that, as the expert so aptly explained.
Right.
I have to believe that there were some pre-trial judgments on behalf of some of the jurors in this case.
On behalf of the jurors? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, and I just think they had their minds made up before the trial even started.
Oh, gotcha.
I think they were engaged in what was going on prior.
How could they not have been?
After watching all of those, endless number of witnesses lying their asses off, destroying their phones. I mean, everything that they did. And then, the state coming with precise evidence that it didn't happen the way they're saying it did. I just feel like they're going on emotion and prejudgment. I can't see it any other way.
There are just a lot of odd things about that case. I mean, things that if you try to start at the beginning of how that evening unfolded into the early morning hours when they drive back over there and find his body. One of the most strange things, I think, is that Jen McCabe's sister is in that house.
Feet away.
There's a dead man in the yard, and she's not concerned about her sister, brother-in-law, and whoever was in the house at that time, nephew.
Dead cop at that.
I mean, I would think, oh my God, is everyone dead? What happened here?
Right?
You're not going to automatically think, oh, he got hit by a car. He got sideswiped by a car, bounced off the curb and flew 30 feet. That's what happened. I'm not worried about my sister.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
I mean, those aren't things that she would have been in a normal person, I should say, would have been in a state of panic until she was able to lay eyes on her family members and see that they were okay. Because she would wonder, why aren't they coming out with all of these
right, lights and
light strobing out there?
They was just right
dead.
above the body, and she didn't go in there until after the body had been removed to the hospital.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That doesn't wash with me. That's not how someone would behave. I mean, even if you didn't like your sister, you would
It's
still
not logical.
Instantly think, oh my God, are they dead? Are they okay?
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, did this guy get into a fight with them? I mean, what? You would have all kinds of stuff running through your brain.
Yeah, all the things would be running through my head for sure.
Exactly.
But you guys know a lot of shit's always running through my head anyway. This trial fucked me up. It was rough.
Yeah, I mean, it was disturbing. It was disturbing to watch people obviously lying on this. I mean, how many people perjured themselves in the state's case?
And many of them law enforcement at that.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I expect that. But
it's just a given for some of us. You know, I feel like I feel like, and I can never remember how to Colakethis. The Colakethises, really, really sweet couple. I feel like they were very honest, and I think Ryan, the brother that picked the sister up that night, I feel like he told the truth. But I feel like and Colin Albert, the most honest one at all on the witness stand. Colin Albert for sure.
Huh?
Sorry.
What now?
You think he was honest?
What? Oh, are you making a joke?
You guys have forgotten my sarcasm in the last several weeks.
Okay, we just thought you were dumb.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure that word's ever been used, but yeah. Sure. No, I was certainly kidding. That kid is, having worked in a mental state hospital for many, many years, and in criminal justice, one of my courses was criminalistics, so studying the mind, or criminology, studying the minds of criminals, different. I could pick out a lot of personality disorders for sure. I'm not a doctor. Of course, I'm not even trying to say that I am. I just have some life experience that has exposed me to a lot of different personality disorders and mental illnesses. And I saw a lot of that stuff on that witness stand throughout the trial. It was insanity all around. And the word corruption is corruptiachusetts, or whatever we got to name that place, because it's bad. But yeah, so the Karen Reed.
Oh, go ahead, Rhonda.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
So who was the female friend who helped with the kids? She was at the closing statements with Jen McCabe and Brian Albert.
John's good friend.
Yeah. When when she testified, she seemed really credible to me. I mean, I think she doesn't know what went on. She wasn't. Too many people were a part of it.
Are you
Not
talking about the
But
talker, Carrie Roberts?
Carrie
That's
so
Roberts.
yeah,
Jan
Carrie
McCabe
Roberts.
yes.
calls her the talker.
But I
a
think she
talker.
was heavily influenced by Jen McCabe, I believe.
Well, I mean, so was the girl who said she saw the body on the lawn.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously,
The black
yeah,
blob.
yeah, obviously, in between the time that she called her brother for a ride home and he got there, she found out something was going on. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
She
some
didn't end up
reason she
leaving.
changed her plans, and then Jen McCabe gave her a ride home. I mean,
Yeah.
any person that was involved with Jen McCabe ended up being a really bad liar, and also corroborating Jen's like master plan, I guess. I don't know. I somehow feel like she was right in the mix of figuring out how to cover this up, what to say. We all need to say this. You know, we all need to say that Colin was home by, or he left at whatever. I forget now.
Since such time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, all the lies when all of the dirty players testify to the exact same thing.
Right.
Because people don't remember things specifically like that. You know, that's like,
Agreed.
that's like Dassey and Barb's husband. I can't think of people's names right now. Scott. It's like them knowing exactly what time they met each other on the road.
Uh-huh.
Give me a break.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't. That isn't how that shit works.
Or just knowing that he'll know the time because I'm sure he looked at his clock.
Oh yeah, I know.
Passed me.
Every time I'm with him, he's always looking at his clock all the time.
So much reasonable doubt in that case. It's just mind-blowing.
I don't know. Juries don't seem to remember at the end that, what the guideline is, that if there's reasonable doubt, you send the person walking.
The last letter that was sent to the judge by a juror that was in fear for their life and wanted their names kept private, I think says a lot about what that juror was thinking. I don't know if it was a he or a she, but they emphasized what Jen said about all the pretrial
The harassment and everything.
harassment that was going on with her family.
Which, by the way, was in a pretrial motion not to bring that up. That was in a pretrial motion. And even though, Jackson, objected or whoever it was, to shut it down, it was already, it was too late. I mean, the shit was out of the horse by then. You can't put it back. So, yeah.
Well, they claim
I like that one.
Jackson opened the door somehow, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, just an insane case. So, like, I doubt that people are going to get bored because there's so many other things in life to do that most people do. I don't, because I'm retired and this is what I do. But it's that watching trials is one of my favorite things to do. And Kay, while you were away, I had asked a question that I wanted to ask you when you came back, about Oklahoma. and TJ kind of confirmed it in the chat when he was here, that Oklahoma does not allow cameras or recorders in their courtrooms. Is that at all for any like no trial can be recorded in Oklahoma? What the hell?
Right.
I
But
mean,
I find it interesting that they let cameras in the courtroom for Daniel's verdict.
yeah, to humiliate Daniel and his family.
I mean, that'd be
Yeah.
interesting to know how many other trials in Oklahoma ever allowed cameras in the courtroom for
For a verdict.
a verdict or sentencing. I can't think of any.
You know, that's funny because it didn't occur to me. It was only for the verdict. That is very strange.
Well, I'm sure Prater and Henderson had a lot to do with that because they wanted to, carry on with the, their narrative in the media. Just, let's just wrap this up the right way. And and now we have that viral video of Daniel being completely destroyed when he realized that he just lost his life.
I think it was because the reason why they may have allowed it was because it was their purpose in this whole thing, in my opinion, to show everybody how not racist they are, and look at what we did, white jury, and
you're right.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you, Cherie.
Yeah, I do too. I just think that that's wrong. I mean, although the Karen Reed case, the Karen Reed trial has just been an ongoing, I want to really just say the cliche word and call it a spectacle. We got to see the process as it was occurring, even though most of us think that it didn't work. But it showed how even with cameras in the courtroom, prosecutors and judges and defense attorneys, witnesses don't have a problem lying and being dishonest and corrupt. They do it in front of cameras too, and with no shame. And then but it's just bizarre to me. I'm going to try to do a little bit of research. I'm not going to stretch my brain too much, but a little bit of research to find out exactly what, if anything, like, oh God, I can't believe I just said that. Jesus. That just popped out purely by accident. If there are any other, but I can't think of any, like Kay has said, I can't think of any verdicts, much less trial or any parts of any proceedings of any trials or hearings or motions have ever been shown in Oklahoma. And getting documents for those motions and hearings is not, I don't want to say it's impossible, and I haven't really tried to do a lot, but I know just us trying to get the transcripts, working on getting the transcripts for Daniel's trial is it's so incredibly costly. And so when people say to me, for whatever thing they're talking about, yeah, but they wanted, 75 cents a page and that's just ridiculous. I'm like, dude, listen, pay the fucking 75 cents a page because this is what we're paying. And it just seems like, and all that is money in her, I can't think of her name, pocket. That's all it is. The transcripts have been paid for since 2015 or 16 by now. They're paid for. They're done and paid for. She doesn't have to go and research anything, or it's just a matter of pulling up the file and selecting the pages that are requested and sending them electronically. That's all she does.
Yeah, she's charging like she has to. She's charging like she has to retranscribe them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's insanity. It's insane. It seems like some sort of a rights violation. I don't know that it is. I haven't looked into that, but it's just insane. And I also feel like, and I guess I should, for shits and giggles, try this sometime, but it just seems like they have gone to extreme lengths to make things very difficult to get information about Daniel's trial, from the little experience that I've had. Anyway, so okay, so trials, yes, are very informative to watch, and yeah, they can be dramatic and they can cause a lot of talk and contemplation and consideration, like we're doing right now. But that's okay. That's what it's supposed. That's what they're supposed to do. Spark, like Kay mentioned, some sort of critical thinking and logic and reasoning. And we're learning. Those of us who are watching some of these trials regularly, we're learning, or I'm learning, that there is not a lot, if very little, logic and reasoning and, like Kay said, critical thinking. It's mind-boggling to me how smart I feel next to some of these prosecutors and judges. I feel very intelligent because they just are. Anyway, yeah. So, all right. So Tabitha Barnes, it's just been really hard to work her case and work all of her bullshit and everything else. If you missed any of them, like I said, there's a 8 or 9 episode playlist in my playlist channel on my in my tab on my channel. So go check them out, or if you want to refresh your memory, just want to listen to the trial. Those are all listed as trial transcripts or prelim transcripts, so you can pick out whichever ones you choose to. So that kind of brings me to something that I want to talk about. And I know that there are several people who are interested and familiar with the Richard Glossip case. So as you know, or as you may know, his case, his death sentence case, if you're not familiar with the case, it will take us way too long to try to explain it to you or describe it to you. I recommend watching a 4-part series called Killing Richard Glossip, I think is the title. Killing Richard Glossip. I think it was very well done. It's pretty old now, but it was very well done. And it's a 1997. In 1997, I believe it was, Richard Glossip was managing a hotel for a man named Barry Van Treese in Oklahoma City. And so I'm just trying to nutshell this for Sheila Hawkins. It was and Richard Glossip was there's just so much corruption. He eventually got accused and had the finger pointed at him by his quote unquote co-defendant, who actually was the killer. And investigators, police, judges, juries, everybody knows anything about the case know that Justin Sneed actually was the killer. He admitted to that, but he ended up getting, after many years, he ended up getting life in prison because he physically murdered Barry Van Treese. So he's in prison for life. But if he, for some weird reason, which I have yet to figure out, the investigators were desperate to make Richard Glossip the mastermind or the organizer of that murder. And Justin Sneed, yeah, I did. I killed him. I swung the bat. I murdered him. But I did it because Richard Glossip told me I had to, or coerced me, or threatened me, or whatever his lame ass reasons are. And so Justin Sneed, who swung the bat and murdered Barry Van Treese. And the photos, the crime scene photos that I have seen are horrible, horrific, horrifying crime scene photos. So much blood and blood spatter all over this entire hotel room the night that it happened. But Richard Glossip, who was allegedly just the mastermind or the organizer of this, was convicted and sent to death row. He got the death penalty for this. So this has been years long, since I guess 1998 till now. He's been on death row since then. Richard Glossip has been sent to the death chamber, I think 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. It could be 2. I always say 3, but it might just be 2. At any rate, he's had minimum 2 last meals, 2 like door, gurney in the doorway of being executed. And then for some different reasons, one had to do with the lethal injection drugs, and those a death, a couple of executions going very, very horribly. So it was on moratorium from, I don't remember the years, but it was on like a 7-year moratorium. The death penalty was in Oklahoma City, or in Oklahoma.
He's had 3 stays so far.
3 stays. Yeah. Eventually, you guys probably know, whoever's listening, shows we have 1 viewing. Yes. Whoever you are, thank you for viewing us, or whoever's going to listen to this later. Knowing that he's been to the death chamber, 3 times is, to me, just the heaviest feeling I can possibly imagine. And then getting the stay. Eventually, when Oklahoma got their new attorney general last year or this year, I don't remember which, they got a new attorney general. Kay, I should let Kay tell it because she's the one who knows all the details for sure. But Kay, I'm gonna turn this over to Kay to talk about Richard Glossip, just because I don't remember all the people's times and everything else about when things started to kind of change. If you don't mind, Kay.
Well, actually, I think before Attorney General Gentner Drummond was elected, I believe it was before that group of legislators asked a firm from Texas to do an independent review and of the case. And so I think it was that independent review that they did that caused our attorney general to, ask, well, basically to throw his support behind him. And when we read, I don't know if the article that we're getting ready to read shares any of the backstory or not. It probably does. I didn't read all the way through it, to be honest. But I guess there's never been a situation like this where the United States Supreme Court hears an issue and they don't have anyone from the state arguing for the conviction. I guess that's very unusual, and that's what happened. And so someone ended up being appointed to argue that position, which is even more bizarre to me. I don't know. We should read the thing, see what it says.
Yeah, we'll read this article, read through it. So, let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. This is an article from The Intercept. I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger so it can be seen on the screen. And I haven't finished reading it either. I started reading it, and then I wanted to know who the hell is this Christopher G. Michelle person, because piss on him is what happened. And so I started researching him, and that's where I got left off. But I'll kind of read through it a little bit, and we'll see what it tells us. And it starts out, to hear lawyer Christopher G. Michelle tell it, the case against Richard Glossip is straightforward. Glossip, who has been on death row in Oklahoma for more than 2 decades for the brutal 1997 murder of his boss, is clearly guilty, Michelle says, and there is no reason for the U.S. Supreme Court to stand in the way of his execution. More than that, Michelle argues that the court should be willing to force Oklahoma. This part I read and I blew my mind. They should be willing to force Oklahoma to carry out an execution that even Oklahoma's attorney general opposes. Force Oklahoma to carry out an execution? That just sounds so, it's just wrong.
It's not the way things happen.
It's not the way that it's not the way it works. Yeah, it's not the way it works.
State.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
what's wrong with that? Oh my God!
Everything is wrong with that. Not to mention unconstitutional in some way. I have no doubt. Anyway,
well,
kind of shit happened in Missouri.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said same kind of shit's happening in Missouri right now with a couple of cases.
So our governor, Kevin Stitt, he loves to talk out of both sides of his mouth all the time. But, this really, he's the one with the power in these situations, even more so than the attorney general. And I think he would love for the Supreme Court to force him to carry out the execution. Although he loves to talk about how, states' rights and all this, and, no one in the federal government's going to tell Oklahoma how to run Oklahoma, that sort of thing. But if it suits him, the dynamic of making someone else the bad guy, I just did what I was told. Yeah. We're seeing this very same thing in a case that I'm following in Tulsa, where an attorney there seems to be being set up for a bunch of sex crimes very similar to Daniel, and they've sent a representative from the Attorney General's office in to prosecute this case, and it happens to be Galen Geiger. And they've sent another special prosecutor from a different county to assist, and her name happens to be Lori McConnell. And then there's this corrupt AF prosecutor out of, I think it's Wagner County. Her name's Jordan Daglish. And so it's those three. And then they have the Rocky Gregory, Kim Davis detective, Detective Aaron Rich, who's sitting in the courtroom for the whole thing, listening to everything. And he's going to second chair, just like Davis and Gregory did in Daniel's case. But so what's happening in that case right now is they brought Judge Hess in from Canadian County as the judge, because obviously this attorney in Tulsa had worked with all these other judges, and I think this is all happening to him because he was taking on these corruption cases. He had all of these clients that were alleging, that unethical things were done to them in the Tulsa County courts. And so this Jeff Kriegel, he was taking on all these cases, and he made a bunch of enemies in Tulsa County. And so through a process of a whole bunch of judges having to recuse, they bring in Hess from Canadian County to do the case. And so he does these evidentiary hearings because they want to get all these women who are outside the statute of limitations for rape and these other crimes. They want to get their testimony in as a propensity, to show propensity. So Hess conducts these trials, these hearings, evidentiary hearings. These women come in, they all tell their story, which some seem credible, but in every situation, there's just like a head scratcher. And some of them, the whole thing is a head scratcher. Things that just don't make any sense at all. Like if you got raped, but then you went out of the country on vacation with your rapist willingly. I mean,
also none of them reported rape.
Right. Anyway, so Hess does this over 4 days. Here's all these women. And his ruling seems fair. He's going to allow a few of them in as propensity, and he's going to deny more than he lets in. So that seems fair. It makes him look like a fair judge. So what does Giger do? Right when trial's about to start, he files an appeal on Hess's decision, which creates an automatic stay in the case, and trial is held off. They still haven't ruled on it. Kriegel's been in jail in solitary confinement for, I think, 19 months, if I'm not mistaken. But what is happening here, in my view, and I'm completely jaded at this point. So, if anyone wants to call me a conspiracy theorist, I won't, whatever. I still feel how I feel. I think I think it was a design all along for Hess to give this fair ruling, for Giger to plan to file the appeal, and then it's on the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals to be the tiebreaker. So they're the bad guy when they come back and say Hess was wrong, you have to let it all in. And that's what's happening right now. But what it also did was it afforded the state more time to go through Kriegel's iCloud account, which is 4 terabytes of information. So
they also they went back to women like when he was in college, and way back, ex-wives.
It started with his ex-wife. The whole thing started with his ex-wife getting married, wanting to move to, I think, Belgium, with their daughter. And Jeff Kriegel said no. Of course, he wanted to continue to have a relationship with his daughter, which he couldn't do if she lived in Belgium. And that's when it all started. But oddly enough, there are some text communications that have become public between Kriegel's ex-wife and Jordan Daglish, the prosecutor in this trial. I don't know if those are surely they're going to be able to come in. But it's not good. It shows, I mean, it just shows how dirty the whole thing is. Anyway, I went a long way around the block to say that I think in a lot of these cases, it's like, hey, let's let someone else be the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know,
And that seems like that's what Kevin Stitt, that's how he's operated for as long as I've been familiar with Kevin Stitt. That's been my opinion of him. He, like you said, talks out of both sides of his mouth, but he just really wants somebody higher than him to force him to do something so that he can just say, hey, not me. I was still, considering blah, blah, blah. But the Supreme Court of the United States, which is insane,
right,
forced me to do this, which I just can't see that's ever going to happen. Which is, I should put this link to this article in the chat as well, for anybody who wants to read all the way through it, to get, all of the. I don't know if I'll read through all of it, but
well, let's gloss through it.
Yeah,
I won't interrupt
get
you
back
anymore.
to it. You're fine. So it says, ordinarily, a state's attorney general would be the one arguing to the high court that an execution should move forward. But since virtually the moment he took office in January of 2023, Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond has taken unprecedented action to spare Glossip's life. In Drummond's view, the case against Glossip was so tainted by prosecutorial misconduct that his conviction should be overturned. Very legitimate. I want to say that these people who are fighting Drummond and the committee, they've all, the ones who are involved in the House in Oklahoma, they're Republicans. They are staunch supporters of the death penalty, but they believe that Richard Glossip is innocent and that this would be a miscarriage of justice. Obviously, it already has been. And J.J. Humphrey, I think he's a House representative, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
He said that if they carry through with this education, with this execution, that he is going to unregister, no longer vote for as a Republican, and I just think that says a lot. I think that says a ton. So anyway,
he also said he'll do everything he can to get rid of the death penalty in Oklahoma.
Right. Yes. Yes. I completely agree with that. I don't care what side it makes me on. I don't care about that, but I do not support the death penalty. So that is something that I would absolutely support for sure. Okay. Drummond told the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals as much last year when he came forward to ask the court to vacate Glossip's conviction and order a new trial. This would be the third trial for Glossip, by the way. The court rejected the overture, however, clearing the way for Glossip's execution. Glossip appealed to the Supreme Court for intervention, an effort that Drummond joined. As such, there was no one from Oklahoma arguing in favor of killing Glossip. Enter Michelle. Michelle, a partner at the White Shoe law firm Quinn Emanuel Urquhart and Sullivan and co-chair of its national appellate practice, has argued before the court 10 times. He was a speechwriter for President George W. Bush and collaborated on his memoir. More importantly, Michelle worked as a law clerk to Chief Justice John Roberts and to Justice Brett Kavanaugh when he was a jurist on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. When it became clear no one would defend Oklahoma's ruling, Roberts tapped Michelle to take on the job, which this is what this article is about.
What
that
the actual fuck?
No kidding. Wait,
it's
we have to have someone to argue against it, or how can we, you know,
Oh my God.
how can we go ahead and kill him? And
yeah.
Why would they even take it up?
I think
Exactly.
because it's just been, I mean, I don't know of any other person who's been to the death chamber 3 times.
That's insane. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. That's why I really thought, you know what, we have to talk about this, and we do cover, you know, updated information on Richard Glossip regularly anyway. But when I got this article from Kay yesterday, I was just like, fuck my life right now. Fuck his life. That is horrible. So, going on. While it is extraordinary for a state attorney general to decline to defend a death sentence before the Supreme Court, it's not entirely unusual for the court to appoint an outside advocate for a position not otherwise represented in a case. Michelle, a seasoned Supreme Court litigator with impeccable conservative credentials, was well positioned for the job. In a brief filed on July 8th, Michelle took on the task with gusto, even if his recitation of the facts of Glossip's case and the lower court's ruling was misleading and incomplete. Michelle argues that the court should pay no mind to Drummond's concerns about the legality of executing Glossip. Quote, nothing in the Constitution compels a state court to provide a particular measure of deference to a state official's confession of error, unquote, Michelle wrote. In other words, it doesn't matter how flawed Drummond believes the case is, the court is under no obligation to take those concerns seriously. Horribly terrifying. Oral arguments in the case are expected to happen in the fall, with a decision likely to come before spring of 2025. For Glossip, the court's ruling could ultimately determine whether he lives or dies, but it could also have far-reaching consequences for criminal defendants across the country. Michelle relies on arguments that dismiss long-standing protections against prosecutorial misconduct and the court's obligation to address it. In doing so, Michelle encourages the justices to, at best, disregard decades of legal precedent meant to ward off wrongful convictions, or, at worst, to undo them. Yeah, let's not fuck around with a wrongful conviction. We don't want to have those overturned. Why? Because it shows our corruption and our incompetence.
Oh.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I haven't seen this article. Oh my God. I had no idea this was happening.
Very eye-opening for sure. This picture, this is an anti-death penalty activist rally outside the U.S. Supreme Court to prevent the execution of Glossip in 2015 in D.C. A significant omission. Richard Glossip was twice convicted and sentenced to die for the 1997 murder of Barry Van Tresse inside a seedy, best budget inn that Van Tresse owned on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. No physical evidence linked Glossip. None. The motel's live-in manager, who was the motel's live-in manager to the crime. The case against him was based almost entirely on the testimony of 19-year-old maintenance man named Justin Sneed, 19, who admitted to bludgeoning Van Tresse to death, but insisted it was Glossip's idea. And it didn't just come from Justin Sneed that it was Glossip's idea. You'll see if you watch Killing Richard Glossip, you will see how the investigators coerced and threatened him. You see that in the interrogation video of Justin Sneed, how they coerce him into pointing the finger at Glossip for orchestrating.
It tells you in the next sentence. It tells you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's just my habit. I should have read it before. In exchange for testifying against Glossip, Sneed escaped the death penalty and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Glossip has always sworn he is innocent, and over the last decade, evidence that he was wrongfully convicted has steadily mounted. In the book Death and Justice, this case is, what's his name? Mark Furman talks about this case specifically. Much of this evidence supports Glossip's contention that Sneed, a chronic drug user prone to unpredictable bouts of violence, murdered Van Tresse and only later set up Glossip as the mastermind. New witnesses have countered the state's portrayal of Sneed at trial, where he was cast as a hapless follower who acted under Glossip's complete control. Those witnesses have described Sneed as cunning, manipulative, and quite capable of killing a man on his own. In August 2022, the state began releasing boxes of previously undisclosed, otherwise known AKA as Brady material, documents that included evidence of serious prosecutorial misconduct. The records show that Sneed gave false statements at Glossip's second trial, and that prosecutors were aware of his misstatements, yet failed to correct his testimony. While he was in jail, Sneed had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and prescribed lithium to manage it. However, when he testified against Glossip, Sneed denied ever seeing a psychiatrist and said he had no idea why he had been given lithium. Handed out like candy. This was a significant omission. Sneed's frame of mind was central to the question of whether he was capable of committing such a brutal and reckless crime on his own. Moreover, Sneed's mental health disorder, combined with his chronic drug use, could have negatively affected his ability to accurately recall what happened the night he killed Van Tresse. Knowing about this combination of factors might have given the jury reason to be skeptical of his account. For years, Glossip's lawyers have been trying to unlock records related to Sneed's mental health. A competency evaluation prior to Glossip's first trial noted that Sneed was unstable, but when defense lawyers sought access to Sneed's health records, they were rebuffed by the state, which called their efforts a fishing expedition. This is how the system operates in Oklahoma City or Oklahoma. Among the recently released case documents were notes from a meeting between Sneed and prosecutor Connie Smotherman. Real quick here, she had to recuse herself from Glossip's most recent parole board hearing last year, I think it was, because she was on the board of pardons at the time that he was, applying for the pardon. So she had to recuse herself from that vote. That took place not long before Glossip's 2004 retrial. In the notes, Smotherman wrote the name of a doctor, Dr. Trumpet, and a reference to the powerful mood stabilizing drug lithium on lithium. Question mark. The significance of those notes was immediately apparent to Glossip's lawyers. As they later argued to the Oklahoma court, Trumpet was clearly a reference to Lawrence Tromka, the lone psychiatrist working in the Oklahoma City jail at the time Sneed was incarcerated there, and thus the only person authorized to diagnose Sneed's disorder and to prescribe him lithium. The notes make clear that Sneed had, at best, misrepresented the situation under oath, and that Smotherman did nothing to correct his misstatements. Misconduct. At Glossip's second trial, Sneed testified that while in jail, he had a cold and asked for Sudafed, but that, quote, somehow they ended up giving me lithium for some reason. I don't know why, end quote, he said. I've never seen no psychiatrist or anything. So you don't know why they gave you that? Smotherman asked. No, Sneed replied. This exchange was at the heart of Drummond's 2023 motion to vacate Glossip's conviction. and of the question currently before the Supreme Court. Quote, there is no dispute that Snead was the state's key witness at the second trial. If Snead had accurately disclosed that he had seen a psychiatrist, then the defense would have likely learned the true reason for Snead's lithium prescription, end quote. Drummond had that in his motion to the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. Pardon me for 1 second while I take a drink. With this information, plus Snead's history of drug addiction, the state believes that a qualified defense attorney likely could have attacked Snead's ability to properly recall key facts at that second trial. The state has reached the difficult conclusion that the conviction of Glossip was obtained with the benefit of material misstatements to the jury by its key witness, he wrote. In his brief to the court, Michel dismisses Smotherman's notes as cryptic and barely decipherable, and calls into question whether they mean what everyone else thinks that they mean. Is he trying to say that everybody else is wrong with what they're thinking and he's right? Is that how you guys take that? What an arrogant prick.
Yeah, I think so.
Pretty plain, yeah. It's right. It's there. Glossip and Drummond's argument relies on a significant overreading of the notes, Michel argues. Even if the notes do show that Snead was prescribed lithium by a psychiatrist, he says this information would not have made a difference to the jury. Again, I'm going to ask that question. How do these attorneys, prosecutors, how do they know what the jury would or wouldn't have thought? They can't. I just feel like should be illegal to be able to say. They can't say that. It's so annoying. Snead mentioned lithium in his testimony, and everyone knows that lithium is prescribed for mood disorders, Michel argued. So knowing the full and correct story wouldn't have changed the outcome of Glossip's trial. Widespread violations. At play in the current dispute before the Supreme Court are three key legal principles designed to protect criminal defendants and to keep state actors honest. The first is a requirement that prosecutors turn over to the defense any materials that are exculpatory to the defendant or that could impeach a witness. The second obligates prosecutors to ensure that witnesses testify truthfully. The third requires courts to consider the cumulative impact on a case when prosecutors violate such rules. In Glossip's case, the state's failure to turn over the notes regarding Snead's diagnosis and treatment violated the first principle, which comes from a case called Brady v. Maryland. Smotherman's failure to correct Snead's false testimony about his use of lithium violated the second principle, which stems from Napu v. Illinois. Finally, Kyle v. Whitley enshrines the third principle. And this is, for those aren't familiar, is Attorney General Gentner Drummond. I don't ever know how to say his name.
That's correct.
Okay. As Michel presents it, Drummond and Glossip's lawyers want to overturn Glossip's conviction based solely on the Dr. Trumpet note and Snead's misleading trial testimony, neither of which he sees as a violation of Brady or Napu. I'm not familiar with that case. I need to read it, I guess. But how can he, that just, neither of which, how does he think that they're not a violation of Brady, for sure? I just don't. Okay. But this mischaracterizes what Drummond and Glossip's lawyers are actually arguing. In their filings to the court, they argue that the note of Snead's false testimony are part of a constellation of violations. The state suppression of Snead's psychiatric evidence did not occur in isolation, Glossip's lawyers wrote. It was part of an expansive effort to unfairly shore up the testimony of the state's star witness and mask vulnerabilities in the state's theory of the case. The 8 boxes recently turned over to Glossip's legal team contained a slew of additional materials that had been previously hidden from the defense. That includes documents revealing that Smotherman collaborated with Snead's attorney during the retrial to modify Snead's testimony to make it fit the forensic evidence. At the first trial, Snead had denied attacking Van Tresse with a knife, even though there had been a knife found at the scene, and despite the medical examiner's findings that there were puncture wounds on Van Tresse's chest. But at the second trial, Snead testified that he had, in fact, stabbed Van Tresse. A rolling independent investigation into the case by pro bono law firm Reed Smith, LLC, unearthed additional evidence. Among those records was a letter written by Snead to his public defender in 2003, a year before Glossip's retrial, in which he suggested he wanted to take back his testimony against Glossip. Quote, "Do I have the choice of recanting my testimony at any time during my life or anything like that?" End quote, Snead wrote. 4 years later, Snead wrote to his lawyer again saying, "There were a lot of things eating at me that I need to clean up." Glossip's lawyers have raised these issues in various appeals in Oklahoma, all of which have been rejected by the State Court of Criminal Appeals. But it has done so without considering the cumulative impact of the prosecutorial misconduct. The effect has been to diminish those violations to individual errors that the Oklahoma court, and now Michelle, claims would not have made a difference to Glossip's fate. This was the very issue the Kyles case was trying to address by requiring a holistic review. Quote, "Absent this court's correction," Glossip's lawyers wrote, "the OCCA's disregard of Kyles also heralds a powerful incentive for prosecutors to trickle exculpatory evidence just slowly enough that a defendant can never present a full-throated Brady claim." That's for sure. Pardon me for 1 minute. Aside from the cursory dismissal by the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, none of the evidence withheld from Glossip's team has ever been fully vetted as part of an evidentiary hearing. Smotherman has never had to testify about the substance of her notes or her interactions with Snead during the Glossip's trial. Glossip's team has asked for a hearing, but the Court of Criminal Appeals has rejected that request too. Yet even Michelle's brief suggests that an evidentiary hearing might be in order, and that could present a way forward that would allow the Supreme Court to avoid having to decide Glossip's fate at this time. At a minimum, Michelle wrote, the court should remand for further fact development rather than vacating the conviction. That's weird.
Well, that might be the first thing he said that I could agree with.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like Kevin Stitt talking out of both sides of his mouth just popped into my head.
Right.
If the Supreme Court chooses to go forward with the case and to rule in a way that degrades legal precedent, groups that have filed friend of the court briefs in the case warn of dire national consequences. Nearly a dozen legal scholars say that embracing the OCCA's decision, for example, would give prosecutors and other attorneys free rein to make decisions on which the integrity of judicial proceedings will turn. That attorneys cannot be expected to make objectively and reliably. The result will be to increase the problem of false testimony in judicial proceedings and consequently to erode public confidence in the court's commitment to judicial integrity. Which court? Just kidding. Correction on July 23rd of 2024. A previous version of this article misidentified the source of a 2003 letter from Justin Sneed to his public defender. That document was not included in the boxes of previously undisclosed evidence the state turned over to Richard Glossip's legal team. Rather, it was unearthed in an independent investigation by a pro bono law firm. The end.
I have another correction to something you said. So it wasn't Connie Smotherman who was on the board. She actually was at that pardon and parole board hearing arguing on behalf of the state. It was her husband, Richard, who was on the pardon and parole board, and he had to recuse himself for the vote. So it was 2-2, which means Glossip loses.
Okay. I apologize. Thank you.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, I had to look it up. I knew it was something like that, but I also remembered her arguing, so I knew she wasn't on the board. I couldn't remember what it was. But they also set up that board by putting Kathy Stoker, who was a longtime Garfield County district attorney here in Enid, Oklahoma, on the board just specifically for that, and she resigned right after that. So I think she was only on there for 1 or 2 months.
Yeah, that's all coming back to me now that you've said all that. I remember it that way. I am really sorry for the misinformation, you guys. Thank you for correcting me.
That's why it's good to have more than one person. It's easy to misspeak.
Yep.
I do it all the time.
Absolutely. Yep, me too. I think we all do at some point. So that's kind of where we're at with Richard Glossip. I mean, what is it, August? I'll have to go back and check the date, but there's a hearing in August.
Is it this August?
Before the...
I would love to hear that, the oral arguments.
Yeah. I'll have to look at the docket and listen. Okay. Yeah.
This just proves again that any law can be argued in the opposite and interpreted any way they want to interpret them, which just makes no sense whatsoever. That, I mean,
that's maddening.
It just leaves it. It is maddening. It leaves justice. There is no justice unless you have a fair, sane someone with common sense. It doesn't exist in our court system. There is no common sense. There is only manipulation to have things turn out the way they want them to turn out, whether it's the right thing to do or not.
Well, yeah, it's not about seeking justice anymore. It's about winning. That's all it is.
It's about turning our justice system into however they want it to go, into taking away rights, in my book, into strangling justice.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And it just, it just doesn't matter what the case is anymore. I know there's I just, like Kay said earlier, that she's jaded. I think I know I'm the same way, because it's hard to go into watching any of the trials that I've watched not thinking that somebody in that trial, somebody involved in that case, there's corruption. I just believe it now. I expect it. So
it's hard not to feel that way when you watch these trials. It's very difficult not to feel that way.
And that's what the systems around the country and nationwide have shown us, that it's, so what I'm going to do, if I can find out, if I don't know if Kay has found it yet, or
I don't see anything on the docket, not in
the Supreme Court. Okay.
Yeah, not in district court, not in, oh, wait a minute.
The Supreme Court.
5/2/24 orders staying proceedings. 5/2/24 preservation orders. 7/16/24 change of address. What?
Who's change of address?
Or a lawyer? Probably a lawyer.
Must be for one of the lawyers, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't see anything scheduled.
Well,
what did that article say?
I know it mentioned it, but I don't remember where.
Up in the beginning.
I'll have to find it. Well, what I'm going to do is, for sure, if we can find that and it is actually done in August, I'll stream it. I'll live stream it. For anybody who wants to come and listen to it, because I think it's that important.
Will we be able to? I mean, Oklahoma doesn't allow it, does it, or is that only in the trial court?
Well, it's going to be the Supreme Court, so.
I think that means is it I think it's the Oklahoma Supreme Court, though, is it?
No, it's SCOTUS.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it's SCOTUS.
I misunderstood that. Wow.
Man, I can't find it. Cherie, can you find anything?
I'll look. I haven't tried to look. I just heard oral arguments and I thought, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will definitely, I will definitely live stream it. And even if it's only the four of us that watch it together, I'll live stream it. I'll find out the legalities of it and everything, but I'll see, if I can't live stream it on my channel, then I'll live stream it in my Discord. People can come and listen to it there. So that is this is going to be huge for Richard Glossip. It's just, again, how he manages to stay as strong and determined and positive as he has and as he does is one of the most inspiring things to me, because I can't imagine. I'm not him. I'm not related to him. I'm not in his family or friends. I don't know anything other than his case. And it's very disheartening to me. It's very heavy, and it's very, everything is always so uncertain. And it's, it's just, it's incredibly, it's a very dark to consider that after all of this, he still could end up in the death chamber again.
And they just
posted. Sorry, go ahead.
They just appoint some expert testifier, arguer before the Supreme Court, some guy that's done it how many times to argue the
10
case?
times.
And the guy, I'm sure, how familiar is he with this case? Probably not at all until he took it on, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe not even then.
Sorry, go ahead. That's like someone from the Attorney General's office before Galen Giger arrived there, writing a response to Daniel's direct appeal. They don't give me a break. Do you know how long it would take to bring yourself up to speed on Daniel's case?
Oh my God, years.
A year. If you were
At least.
if you were a fast reader and you were able to retain information like a machine, that's what it would require. Because it's all so convoluted, it's hard to keep separated in your mind.
No doubt.
Like you said, Susan, it took me years to be able to process it all and make it all fit in my head. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'm not going to speak for Cherie, but I know that particularly the three of us have spent months and months, hours at a time, days, trying to figure, finding and putting together pieces or deconstructing the story, the narrative of each individual accuser's case. And it wasn't easy. It's not easy to do all of that. And, we're just a little team. And I've been at this 4 years. Will it be 4 years? I think it's about 4 years this month, if I'm not mistaken. 3 or 4. Anyway, it feels like longer because I've been able to, consume so much information. But while you're consuming the information, you're also looking for the lie or the dishonesty or the corruption that is there. So it's a little difficult.
I did find just an article. It says, if the Supreme Court follows its usual practices, it will hear arguments in the case Glossip v. Oklahoma in its next term, which starts in October.
Okay. October. I don't know where I got August. Okay. Well, either way, we'll, whenever we find out whenever they do it, we'll definitely figure out a way to share it with those who are interested in listening to it.
And although the audio is horrific, it's in those boomy courtrooms. They do live stream the arguments audio.
Yes.
For every case. So.
Right. Yeah, I've watched a few I've watched some at their website, at SCOTUS's website, and I've watched live streams that others have done for different whatevers. And so I know it can be done, but I definitely will get to know.
oyez.org.
Oh yes, oh yeah.
Yeah. OY what? YEZ. .org. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely keep our eye on it. We always have anyway. Whenever I always try to make sure we give updates when we hear something new about Richard Glossip, because everybody that I know that knows this case will be crushed if he ends up being executed. It's too much. It's just way too much. But we'll follow it all the way to whatever end comes. I'm going to be as positive as possible and say till the day he is released from prison, till his case is overturned. Okay. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this last topic, but I do want to talk a little bit about Corey Richins. Susan said that she knows about the case, which is awesome. I appreciate that. And, I'm ready to, I want to stream it. I've never done it, and I know it can be a lot of work. I've heard other, YouTubers say how stressful it is. It's a daily thing, and it's a pretty big commitment.
Is the trial have a date set, Rhonda?
No, it has not been yet set for trial. The last hearing that they had, I'm trying to think of when it was, in June. I think it was near the end of June. They did her, they were trying to decide if they were going to do, if the judge was going to allow her to post bond, and that was denied. She's been in jail ever since she's been arrested. And she's kind of creepy looking. I'm not going to lie. That's just my opinion. But so they were, and then as probably know, Susan, that her attorney, who I guess is fairly well known among the law tubers, I guess, I don't know, but her name is Sky Lazaro or Lazara, something like that. I'm not a fan.
Quit? Did she quit?
She had to. Well, yeah. There's some, in my opinion, some controversy around that, but I don't know that for sure. But she withdrew from the case, and the court appointed her a law firm at Salt Lake City, which I thought was really interesting. But I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or what. I don't know, but to be appointed, court-appointed law firm, like an entire team, I just thought was, good for her, good for a defendant. But I just thought it was interesting. I hadn't seen that before. But so they're supposed to be having they will be doing motions in August, I believe, to set the trial, but we know how that goes. They'll have a bunch of motions, and hopefully it won't be like Coburg or, some of those other huge cases, and we'll not have a bunch of back and forth, but there will be hearings in August, and I'm planning to, I don't know, I might live stream them. I don't know. I'll see when they are going to be and what they're going to involve. But that's kind of what I'm planning with that at the moment. I'm going to play, because I don't want to get a copyright strike, but I'm going to play a little bit of Vinny Napolitano, or whatever his name is, Politano, or what's his?
Politano.
And I think I should have made some, what do they call, timestamps on this, and I didn't, but I just want to play a couple of minutes of it and let you see, if you're not familiar with the case, Corey Richins, you can see kind of a really quick summary.
Eric and Corey Richins seemed to be living the perfect little life. The attractive young couple had 3 young boys and were doing very well financially, living in Utah. They traveled, had a beautiful home, and spent a lot of family time with their boys. But beneath the exterior, something else was happening. Family members say Eric suspected his wife of trying to poison him, giving him food and drinks laced with poison. Eric got so suspicious that he changed his life insurance and will to give his money to his sister, who he trusted to take care of the kids. Now, prosecutors say Eric was right. He died in March of 2022, a victim of fentanyl poisoning. After his death, Corey wrote a book for her children to help them deal with the loss of their father. And just after the release of the book, Corey was arrested and charged with murder. Tonight, we take a
Okay. I don't really need to show much more than that. It pretty much just a nutshell, like literally a paragraph of how the case began and got started. But there's just like every other case, there's so much. I think I'll just put a link to this video, and you can watch it. Whoever was interested. It's about 45 minutes long, I think. You can
It's
watch the rest
follow
of
the money in that case.
Oh, yes, yes. And
Yeah.
yes, and in the hearing that I just listened to earlier in June, I think in June, I believe it was, they had a witness on the stand when they were deciding her, whether she was going to get bail or not. Uh, a witness outlined for the state, outlined just some of Corey Richins' financials that were mind-boggling to me. I could not wrap my head around how she
Forget
had
it.
this money. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so definitely, hopefully some of these other, hi Jazz Naz, it's great to see you. It it's I hopefully it's not going to be a lot of other big trials or stuff going on at that time, because I really think this is going to pick up and be a pretty interesting dramatic trial. I'm just going to say that I know that for those who are subscribed to my channel and or listen on replays or whatever, I know there are going to be other like really smart, law tubers. I know Emily D. Baker is planning to uh, live stream it. Last I heard, I know she's got some other things going on, so I know she's planning to be involved. The lawyer, Peter Tragos, I know a lot of people in his chats are asking him to, give daily updates on her trial. So I know there's going to be bigger channels and, lawyers that are going to be live streaming it or discussing it or doing breakdowns. I get that. I'm none of those. But, there won't be a lot of stopping or pausing to talk because I won't be able to offer any legal thoughts necessarily, only my layman legal knowledge, which isn't very much. So, that could be a kind of like Claire on her channel. She will live stream trials and she'll pin a post, saying, what's coming up next or who's testifying or whatever. And she streams the trial, but she doesn't do a lot of commentary unless, when you get breaks and stuff like that. But other than that, that's what I'll be doing. So
did you just say you're not going to talk? Oh, sorry.
No, I'm talking. You know me. I'm not going to not talk. But I'm not going to be talking, pausing to offer legal opinions or anything like that because I can't.
Hey, I was just being a smart ass. You knew that.
Yeah. So that's what it's going to be. And that's what I'm going to do. And between now and then, and I will, when new hearings or motions are filed or whatever, and there's another hearing, I'm going to go ahead and start live streaming that. And, but none of that is going to take away from what we're doing with Inside the Wrongful Conviction of Daniel Holtzclaw. That will still go on. And, I'm married to Daniel's case, so that's my partner right now, Daniel's case, and so it'd probably be a lot of work for me, and I'll have to really focus on my priorities and things like that. But I know I can do it. I know I can do it, and I know I can do it with support from everybody here on the panel and everybody who is subscribed to the channel and watches. With whatever regularity, I know with your support, I'll be able to handle it. So,
who's coming up next? In Daniel, is it Carl? It's one of the Carlas, isn't it?
It's one of the Carlas. Yes, I can't remember. Now, the rest of these cases, the rest of the accusers on Daniel's in his case, most of the rest of them, I should say, are not going to be nearly as complex as Tabitha Barnes. I would say hers was probably the worst or the biggest or most intense case. So I hope from my recollection, it was definitely the most difficult to try to get through. So for me, so it's going to be one of the Carla Johnson or Carla Raines, whichever one, and Kay may know for sure. It's whichever one said to Rocky Gregory in their recorded one of what we think is more than interviews, where she tells him on recording that like 6 or 7 different times that that nothing had happened, nothing like that. Daniel Holtzclaw had never touched her or did anything. 7 times during her recorded interview, she said that he, nothing like that had happened to her from Daniel. So
yeah, that's Carla Raines.
Okay, so that's who we're going to talk about next time, and it's
How'd
gonna
you get my name on something like this?
yeah.
In her case,
It's
is very simple. It's just one alleged incident. Carla Johnson has 2, but it's still pretty simple too compared to Tabitha.
Right. Tabitha and Terry Morris are perhaps the 2 most heaviest and most difficult, I think, for me. So yeah, so we're going to talk about Carla Raines, and when we get to it, we'll read her preliminary and her trial transcripts as well. They won't be as long as Tabitha Barnes either. So it's not going to be hours of transcript reading. Oh, just so difficult to do. So that is what the plan is for the next episode, inside the wrongful conviction of Daniel Holtzclaw. And then I just have one other thing that I want to talk about, and that is not sure how well this is going to go over, but it really is just it's really my thing. So I mean, I guess let me just share my screen here. I'm taking this opportunity to let everybody know that in light of my decision to stream the Corey Richards trial, I am going to be constructing a new channel, because I don't want any trials that I might stream. I don't want them. I want just Rhonda inside the wrongful conviction of Daniel Holtzclaw. I want that to be its own channel. So ultimately, we can, I'll start moving other trials and cases and things like that over to the new channel. It's under construction. I have no idea yet what to call it or, what the platform will be necessarily. I just feel like that's the right thing to do, is to keep all of the other things I want to do completely separate from Daniel's case, because it deserves its own time.
I think that's a good idea. Not that I have a say, but that's what I think.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, all the support, I can get is.
I agree.
Thank you, Susan. And partly too, part of it is that I think I may be able to draw others from outside of our little niche with Daniel's case. I might be able to get others who aren't involved in Daniel's case interested in Daniel's case, either during the live streaming of a trial or, after the live streaming of an entire trial or something, get more awareness to Daniel's case. So ultimately, while I think it will be fun, challenging but fun to do the live streams of trials or whatever, there's also the little ulterior motive in helping to draw more people from that niche into Daniel's case. I guess niche is what they call it in YouTube world. So I'm sorry I keep using that word. I prefer genre, but I don't think that's the right way to refer to it. So anyway, and thank you, Sheila, as well for your support. So that's it. That's all I wanted to cover tonight. Longer than the 90 minutes I thought, but not as long as it could be. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone on the panel. Thank you guys, all three of you, for your great opinions and commentary on the Karen Reed trial, Richard Glossip, Daniel, of course, and other things that we've discussed. I always appreciate everything that you ladies have to offer, and it's nice to have people. Even though we're all in a box up here on our screens, it's nice to have other people, with you to discuss those things. Especially when you're a small channel like mine. We're still a very small channel. We've grown in the last 6 months, but we're still very small. Hi, Becca. I'm just getting ready to wrap up, and it is so nice to see you. You will have to be on the replay crew. But it's great to have you pop into chat. So, with that being said, I just want to give everybody on the panel an opportunity to say something if they'd have anything they'd like to add or comment on before we go. And we'll start with Susan.
Didn't get to my unmute. It's been an interesting discussion, and I hope you all have a great evening. And I guess I'll probably see some of you this weekend, reading with the crew and open mic with foul play. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Susan. And just right below Susan, Cherie. Anything you'd like to offer?
Well, I agree with what Susan said. It was interesting. We, had a few different things to talk about. The potpourri, I guess you called it. And thank you, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Cherie, and thank you for quickly looking things up. You're so good at it. And I'll try to get some links that Cherie has posted elsewhere. I'll try to put some of those in the description tonight or tomorrow when I go through and edit things. So thank you for finding those things and for posting them for me so I can hopefully use them and help other people. And then finally to Kay. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I'm glad you decided to do an update on the Glossip case because it's so disturbing. And I couldn't, I guess, make myself read that whole article. I've just been trying to catch up since I got back from vacation, and it's not really working out. Anyway, it was fun discussion. I think watching all these trials that we've been talking about, for me, I started doing that just because it might trigger something that could be helpful for Daniel. And I don't know if I've found anything yet, but it is just interesting to watch all the different ways that either the prosecution or defense try to advance their cases. And I think the Murdaugh trial was, for me, one of the most educational because I don't know, I just learned so much about the technology aspect of everything in that trial. But yeah, I think it's cool that you're think you have the patience to stream trials, and I can't imagine doing that, but I guess if you're watching them anyway, you might as well be streaming it. So with that, I don't really have anything else to say.
I was going to agree with you about watching trials. I've been listening to them but constantly lately, and it helps me in my job. And you learn about more about evidence, which is so hard. It's difficult because there's so much to it that, and different issues come up that might relate to the case that you're working on, like Daniel's case and stuff like that.
It's also really interesting to see different judges and different prosecutors. And I'll point to the Alec Baldwin case.
Oh,
and what happened there.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh yeah. Sorry. You guys go ahead.
Amazing.
Who are some of your favorite judges? Sorry, not to start a whole new podcast.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, I'm curious. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to have to point to that one first.
For me, the Daryl Brooks judge, Jennifer,
she was amazing.
I've never seen Darrow, yeah.
Darrow, yeah.
I've never seen a judge with so much patience before.
Patience.
That was amazing.
She wanted to give him nothing on appeal.
Oh, and that guy's so screwed. Yeah. And obviously mentally ill.
Yeah.
Which is sad. But
yeah.
Jesus. The destruction. Ground.
The Sarah Boone case should be interesting.
Oh my God, Sarah Boone. Uncivil Law, I can't remember his first name, just slipped my mind, but I think that he might kind of sort of halfway consider possibly representing her. I don't know, but
Lori,
I can't remember. No. Uncivil Law. God, what is his name? Kurt. He lives in Austin, I believe. I know him from Depp v. Heard. He was one of the law tubers that streamed Depp v. Heard and stuff. But anyway, I watch some of his stuff on his channel sometimes, and
she'll just fire him.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, I mean, who knows if she's even going to ever get to trial. I think the judge in that case has been incredibly, ridiculously patient with her, but I'm not a lawyer, so I can say that. But
she put out a want
ad.
Yeah,
wow. She did.
Good luck with that, lady.
It's hilarious, but well done. I mean, it is.
It's getting comical with her. It really is, and that's a horrible way, to mindset to have. But anyway, so
she's incredibly creative. That girl, in her letters and her wanted poster.
Yeah, it's crazy. I get most of my information about her case from watching The Lawyer. I haven't spent any of my own time looking any farther than that because it's. I watched initially. Oh, I watched brief moments of her in court, but she really just grates on whatever nerve I might have left at the moment, and so sometimes I just really can't tolerate her for very long. But
I watched the one where this last lawyer that recused wanted out. I watched that hearing. She was in court that day.
I did. I watched that one too. Oddly enough, I think that's one of two that I've watched.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've got Sarah Boone coming up eventually. I know that Koberger I believe has been set for next May, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm telling you
Richard
what,
Allen.
the
Richard Allen is.
Richard Allen. Yeah, there's a lot coming up, and there's a lot of cases that could be going on simultaneously. I think of all of the trials that are upcoming, I feel like Corey Richins will be the least difficult to kind of live stream. So and hopefully it stays that way. It shouldn't. And I was just thinking, is when I found out that the state rested today in the Ballerina or Black Swan or whatever trial it's called, Benefield, whatever.
Yeah, Ashley Benefield.
Yeah, I think it's
Benefield.
called The Fucking of Ashley Benefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I had streamed something that short, probably to start with, it probably would have been a better idea, but I didn't. I'm not prepared for it yet. So,
can I give you my impression of that trial right now?
Please do. Absolutely.
I just want to say that it feels to me like there is a certain faction of abusers in this world that are trying to undo the Me Too movement, trying to get people not to believe women when they say that they've been abused. I think there are people that want to harm that movement. And, all of the media, what they have put out on this, have just got everybody believing. Before they heard any of this trial, everybody had her guilty. And they hadn't even heard, the trial hadn't even started. And it just everywhere you go, and law and crime, they did a poll, as 70-some% say guilty. I mean, it's just crazy. And everything that I have seen so far, the prosecution's case, they have absolutely nothing that proves that this woman wasn't abused, for one thing, and that she actually, with malice, killed this man because, she wanted her daughter to herself. It's just...
her body language doesn't match that.
Yeah. It's all about, her expressions in court and what she's wearing. And,
well, today when they were going through that, when the medical examiner was testifying and he was talking about stippling and like how far away you would be, and they had the camera on her, you could tell that she was replaying that tape in her mind over and over again, trying to process that.
Yeah. She was very upset. Happened to hear about that and everything. Yeah, a lot of that has to do with Amber Heard. I think. Aha, see, women lie.
Well, women do lie. I mean, that's the problem. Yes. I mean, the Me Too movement, that's great, but you still have to follow the evidence in search of the truth.
Exactly.
People do lie. Look what happened to Daniel. I mean, he got caught up in his situation.
Yeah. And I'm not saying just believe a woman because she's a woman. Yes, look at the evidence, case by case, for God's sake.
Yeah, but you don't just automatically. What other crime do you automatically get arrested for? And like Kriegel and Tulsa, 19 months in solitary, he's to be presumed innocent right now.
That's right.
And he's being housed in the worst conditions.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
That's like Richard Allen, for God's sake. He's in a state penitentiary in ADSEC
Yeah.
for over a year. For over a year.
That's just unbelievable. Well, and what they say is that they don't have the facility to house him properly somewhere else.
They have had at a county jail, I think it is, nearby, where he's being tried, that has offered to take him. It says they can do it.
It's political.
It's totally so political. Oh, that case is just off the charts. Crazy.
Yeah, because I mean, he's being retaliated against from what I've read in there. You start reading about Indiana prisons. Oh my gosh. It's horrible to read about all the lawsuits and stuff.
He lost so much weight and just looked when the first time he came to court after being there for like 3 months. I mean, he was a completely different man than when he went in there.
Saw those photos.
Just in looks alone. And they're drugging him. And I mean, Jesus, it's crazy. And he's presumed innocent, right?
Yes.
Right.
It's the Delphi case or Richard Allen case or however we're going to refer to it is something that I tried to get interested in, but I couldn't because it was just, at the time we were really deep in trying to obtain documents and things like that in Daniel's case, and trying to Cherie and Kay and I for sure trying to make all the pieces fit and throw out the pieces that didn't belong, and it was a lot of work that we had going on, and I just couldn't take on that case, and it was crazy then, and it's gotten even worse now.
It happened almost 8 years ago is when they were killed.
Right. Yeah. I just mean when I discovered it.
Yeah, there was so much that happened before, these attorneys took the case, and a lot of that is just crazy speculation, and
what's that podcast called? Up the hill or over
down
the hill?
hill.
Down the hill.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know why that is now. Dirt.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot of information in that podcast. I mean, it was done early. But
kind of gives a pretty decent backstory though.
Yeah, it does.
Like getting you familiar with the area and things like that.
Yes. And they also did documentary, I guess you'd call it, on the podcast.
Bob and Allie Mata, attorneys. Where are they from? Chicago or just outside Chicago?
Yeah, Defense Diaries.
Their podcast, Defense Diaries, they cover the Delphi case.
Yeah, Bob actually goes to some of the hearings. I think he plans to be at the trial, I think.
Yeah, I heard he wasn't looking forward to it.
He knows the lawyers that are defending Richard. Yeah, it's insane.
I like Bob and Allie, and I've only I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They go through all the filings, as they come out. So they have some very interesting YouTubes on the filings.
That case.
I've never.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Sheree.
The Richard Allen case reminds me of the Karen Reed case because, I guess I don't know how true it is, but the law enforcement seems to be framing him for something that they may be responsible for, or their crew.
I don't know that they're responsible, but they sure have covered up a lot of, the lost recordings, all the evidences. Yeah, a lot of really sketchy stuff there.
Oopsie,
and it sounds to me like they had really good evidence that it was a couple other people, and somehow, that's all gotten lost. All that evidence. So it's really sketchy. And the judge is so biased in this case.
Yeah, she's the worst.
So, just another shit show.
Yeah. Welcome to the shit shows. Find a new one every day.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. You guys have been great tonight. I really appreciate all of your all of the everything that you commented on and opinions and things that you said, and it's been really nice. It's been fun. It's been really, and I know that nobody on my panel, just for those of you who were watching, who are still in chat or who will watch this later, I am not a list. I'm not a outline person. I know it makes sense and it's logical, and I am a common sense kind of person, and I am able to think logically, but I cannot. And I know this is so overused, but that I really almost hate to even say it, but it's just a fact that I have ADHD, and I can't. That is a big problem for me. And so making an outline to follow is very, very difficult for me. And Kay and Cherie both, a couple of years ago, did their very best to make outlines for me. And I just really struggle with following them. I'm more of an off the cuff speaker or presenter or whatever you want to call it. And so to try to focus on an outline, it just proved to be really difficult for me. And I know that that's not how Kay and Cherie and probably Susan as well. I know that's not how your brains work because it is so seemingly unorganized, and it does a lot of times come off as unorganized, and I apologize for that. But it's just who I am. It's just who I am, and it's just how my brain works, and I can't change that, and I'm not going to try to change that. It just causes me more frustration. So I do the best I can. Having Brian Bates to help give me guidance, and with his podcast is a huge help. Kay and Cherie still offer, their best, things that should be talking points and things like that. It's no offense on them. I mean, I wish I could think that way. I just can't. So I am who I am, and I speak the way I speak, and that's just all there is to it. So, having said that, here I go circling back. That's just been one of the things about the Delphi trial that I could not possibly. Daniel's case is difficult enough to try to organize and keep thoughts, and Kay has done a great job, with guidance for Cherie and I both, of things to focus on and look at, and so I applaud both of them. And so for doing that, otherwise, I would be all over the place more than I am in Daniel's case. So anyway, all of those things being said, I appreciate you ladies for having, for us being able to just have a discussion about a few different topics and not following anything in particular. And I kind of like that. And, I think that, that's kind of maybe how my new channel will be. It'll just be, organization where it needs to be and there's no other option but to be, but more of a, being able to just kind of speak and say what's, in my weird brain. So, having said all those things and having had a fabulous show tonight, I'm going to end it here. We will be back next week, and we will be streaming, or we'll be talking about Carla Raines, and we will be following Brian Bates' outline in that one as well. So it'll be easier for you to understand without my mumbo jumbo added in. I'll add it in, but we'll follow Brian Bates' outline as he followed her case as well. So, all that being said, thank you for being here tonight. And until next Thursday at 4 p.m. Central, peace out.